But okay, here's the thing, right? Like here in Indo, I don't think sex ed even exists, man. No, here's how it works. They tell you not to have sex before marriage. So because of that, they don't really want to teach you like how to have safe sex or whatever. So because, you know, you're not supposed to have sex before marriage. So then if you do want to educate yourself more or something, even to the extent of this, right? I know this because here's a little story that I have. And this happens until now and I still get discriminated for it. And this doesn't even make any sense. So I have said that I have some internal problems. And because of that, I get sick quite frequently. I get infections very easily. One of them is I have like a I don't know why it happens until now, but I get a urinary tract, a UTI. I get a UTI quite often. And it usually happens when I don't drink a lot. So if I don't drink a lot and I don't pee a lot in that day, I get a UTI. I get UTIs very, very often, and I've gotten it ever since I was in middle school. What is a UTI? So for those of you that don't know, this usually happens a lot in women, where if you don't keep your, if you don't keep your 𝐞𝐸𝐤𝐤𝐤 fresh and clean, not only is it quite unhygienic, you can actually cause an infection. It got really bad to the point that when I was in middle school or high school, because I was studying a lot and I didn't really have a lot of time to like whatever, I keep forgetting to drink, and I would get like one UTI every month. So it was really fucked back then, right? And I told this to my parents at that time. And my parents, I don't have a gynecologist or a gynecologist. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like a doctor that you can look around for, and then you find one that you trust, because it is a very private area, right? You need to have a vibe with the doctor. So that was the first time I ever went to a gynecologist. And then finally we found a doctor that was a gynecologist, but she is also a doctor for like pregnancy, stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? It's fine. So I went in to get like checked, and I told her like, hey bro, I keep getting like a UTI very often. I don't know why. Like, I know that you can't really like shove a camera and check it, right? But I don't know, is there anything else you can do? Medicine that I can take maybe? Stuff like that. TLDR, I had to take a day off of school for that. Yeah, she's like an OB-GYN. Yeah, I went to an OB-GYN kind of lady. But I took a day off school, and if you don't want it to be marked as like absent, you have to give your teacher like a doctor's letter and a parent's letter that basically stated like, oh, I had to go for medical leave, right? Because at that time, it was so painful that I couldn't piss. I couldn't sit. I couldn't even wear jeans. If I wear like low-key tight pants, it is so painful to even walk. So I had to take a medical leave, and I went to an OB-GYN. And then TLDR, I went back to school the next day. I was feeling a bit better, and I gave my teacher the doctor's letter. And I also gave her my parents' letter thing, but it was in the envelope with the doctor's letter, right? The next morning, the principal called me. Like, I was walking to school, and then on the way, the principal was like, oh, Mika, I need to talk to you in my office. Not gonna lie, I thought I got chosen for a competition, so I was really, really happy. Because usually what happens in that school is that we have like this billboard that have a lot of like posters about competitions that are happening, and you can actually like submit your name to tell them like, hey, I am down to be like a candidate for these competitions. And I would always put my name down because I like joining competitions, right? So I thought like, oh my god, there's another competition. That's pretty pog. So I went with the principal, and I was just like smiling and happy. And then she sits me down, and she was like, we caught you making out with someone yesterday. And obviously I told them, you must be out of your fucking mind. Like, what? So I was like, no? Like, how? They're like, yes, we have proof that you were making out with someone yesterday. Yeah, the janitor actually recorded you making out with someone. Exactly. And I was like, okay, but that couldn't be me. Like, bro, I look like every other fucking girl in the school, okay? Like, you got the wrong hoe today. Because the only thing I'm making out with is myself. Plus, I wasn't even at school yesterday. Like, I was at school, but I had to go home, like, at the right time because I wasn't feeling well. Like, damn, girl, you short me? She's like, yeah, we're sure it was you. And I was kind of like confused, right? So I clearly was denying it. And then my principal actually said like, if that's not true, why did you go to the OB-GYN? I was like, what? What do you mean why I went to the OB-GYN? Like, the fuck? It was written right there on the paper. Like, I have a UTI. And apparently, it wasn't written. It was just written that I had like stuff tested out and shit. But it was written like, clinic Like, I don't go to the hospital for the OB-GYN. It was like a clinic for pregnant women and kids, but they do have doctors to just check you up. So on the top of my paper, it was written that I went to a clinic for mothers and kids, and they genuinely thought that I was checking up if I was pregnant or not. I almost got suspended. Like, bro, I'm not even in a relationship with anyone. Genuinely, because I got my coochie inspected, because I keep getting UTIs, that they almost suspended me because they thought that I was pregnant. And this happens until now, because I would get UTIs even until this day. Suspended, yeah. You know, if you're like pregnant, you can get suspended from school, and it's really fucked because only the women would usually do that. I know one of like my seniors, I remember this. It was like a massive scandal in my old school, but one of my seniors actually got pregnant, and then she got suspended, but the guy didn't get suspended, and like the students were like rioting about it, but I don't know about that one. So even until this day, considering that I still do get UTIs, I still get infections and stuff, I've only ever went to a doctor for it 3 times in my whole entire life. The first one was in middle school, and ever since then I got so traumatized that sometimes I would rather like suffer through the infection pain than go to a doctor. And second time I went alone. I remember this. The second time I went alone because I wanted to ask the doctor about like, hey dude, is there a way like for me not to get a UTI? Like, I want to know how to prevent it instead of just always taking antibiotics, you know? And then when I was in the waiting room, so many like people were looking at me and everything. Like, a lot of them were pregnant ladies, and they would like look at me and then like just, you know, keep staring at me and stuff. And I'm like, bro, I'm not here to get nothing checked, okay? I just want to make sure that I don't get a UTI again. Like, so that's the second time I've went, and then every time I've went, it's always gonna be the same like statements where it's like, this one time I went, and then the nurse, I went to this like clinic this one time, right? To get like a checkup, because checkups are very, very good. You don't have to be sexually active to get a checkup. But so I went to get it checked, and I was like, hey dude, like, yeah, I'm only here for a checkup, blah, blah, blah. And then when I went to the clinic, right, the nurse would have this habit of calling you like, hello ma'am, or like, hello moms, or something like that, to be polite. And then one of the nurses like, okay moms, like, you know, are you here alone? Are you here with your partner? And I was like, I'm here alone. I'm just gonna like go to this doctor to check up, blah, blah. And then the nurse beside her was like she leaned onto the nurse that was like, you need to get your a blood pressure test. Yeah. So I was in front, I was like beside the nurse tables and stuff, getting my blood pressure checked as they're like talking to me a little bit. And they're like, okay moms, are you here alone? Blah, blah. And then the nurse beside her literally like went closer to the nurse checking my blood pressure and just went like, she's not married. And then they were just like, oh. And they just like gave me weird looks. And then ever since then, they like didn't even try and start a conversation. They didn't even like try to talk anything through. They're just kind of like ignoring me, which is fucking weird. Like, as a medical professional, I would assume that you understand that it's okay to get yourself checked, okay?